Hey folks, and welcome to another episode of the Creator Toolbox. This is the show that's all about the nuts and bolts behind a creator business. I'm Colin Gray from the podcast host, as always, joined by Jacob too. And this week we've got Arielle. Hi Arielle.
Hey, how's it going?
Not too bad, not too bad. So Arielle, if you're listening out there, I'm sure you know who Arielle is. Arielle Nissenblatt. Arielle is an epic creator. I'm sure she's got loads of good suggestions for us today. Runs, works now for Descript as well. So you're the community manager for Descript now, aren't you, Arielle?
That's right.
Yeah, perfect. And what about your other stuff? You've got a bunch of hobby stuff. What's kind of a top line of your other podcasting activities as well?
Yeah, big hobby person, big podcast hobby person. My main thing is that I run a podcast recommendation newsletter called Earbuds, and I love it. I've been doing it for 7 years and 2 days.
Oh, wow. I didn't know it was that long.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. Cool. Good stuff. So yeah, go and check out Earbuds. Where can they find that? Where's Earbuds at?
Earbudspodcastcollective.org.
Sweet. Okay, cool. Right. So we've got our toolbox ready. We've got everything we're going to talk about today all set. What's our first ones then? Jacob, do you want to kick off this week? I don't think you've gone first yet. Let's see.
Yeah.
What's your first tool of the day?
Okay. It would be unlike me to talk about AI, but I'm going to talk about AI. I have grown very unhappy with ChatGPT. Now, loads of people are using it. Loads of people have used it for loads of different things, but a lot of the things that I like to use it for are to do with sort of my writing workflows and ideas generation and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's gotten really lazy. I think a lot of people have been talking about that. It's not just me. I'm not just kind of like gotten very old very quickly and forgotten how to prompt it. But it's went kind of really downhill. Loads of people are cancelling subscriptions and all this stuff. So I'm not sure what's going up with it. But what I'm looking at just now and what I've actually had a really good time using this week as part of my work, my writing workflow, is Google Gemini, which is, I believe they just rebranded Bard and they put their updated model on it. But I found it to be way, way more conversational, way more natural in the way that it comes back to you with writing. So like, one of the ways that I like to use it is I will write a really messy draft that I intend for no one else to see in this world apart from me and whatever my AI tool of choice is. And I'll say, do me a favor, help me pick out some of the things that are really bad and really good here. And it'll kind of go through it. I'll make some suggestions and I'll do that a few times until I get to a place where I'm comfortable with it. And then I don't really need the AI anymore. Anyway, I'm happy off doing my thing. I've made a shape of what it is that I need to do. And yeah, I found it way, way, way better than ChatGPT ever was. So yeah, that's not a long one, but I think it's worth checking out. It's also free. I think you just need to have a Google account. Mm-hmm. There probably is a paid plan, but I've not been prompted to upgrade or anything like that yet. Yeah, worth checking out.
Interesting. Are you using either of them at all, Arielle? What are you using these days in terms of AI?
Not really.
No.
I'm literally looking at Google Gemini right now, though, so this is a very useful show for me already. In terms of AI, all I really use in my podcast production workflow is what's built into Descript. So a few of the cut out spaces between word gaps, we call it. Yeah. I use the studio sound, removal of background noise, and sometimes I use the summary features that are powered by ChatGPT, I believe. Yes.
Yeah, so it goes back to that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm finding that it's the like time codes and stuff like that, whether I'm putting them into our podcast descriptions or whether it goes onto YouTube, repurposed. I think that's about the best one because it's so painful going through and trying to find your chapters and your time codes and stuff like that.
Yeah, really, really helpful to just have, somebody do it for you. And maybe it's accurate, maybe it's not, but it gets you there.
Yeah. It's a first draft. You can go in there and edit it after that. Yeah, for sure. Cool. What, Jacob, what is it actually better at? You say it's better than ChatGPT ever was. Like, what is it? Just speed? Is it accuracy? Is it creativity? What's the difference?
It's the way of writing. So one of the things now I tried for a while. I thought I got really excited with ChatGPT and I thought, wow, this is brilliant. I'm never going to have to write a landing page ever again or an email. I was just going to be able to spit them out with this. But it never really that was never going to happen in the way that it's been, because it has a really sort of predictable way of writing. Everything is there's particular words that it keeps using over and over, no matter how many times you tell it not to. Like the word elevate,
Right.
elevate your podcast, do this and do that. Like it has these really horrible gimmicky kind of approaches to copywriting, where kind of written copy was never going to be any good. But the thing that I found with Gemini is that it was actually, the best way I could describe it is conversational. It felt a lot more like it was just someone explaining something to me, rather than kind of like really aggressively trying to sell me something using 90s copywriting techniques, that kind of thing. I thought it was quite impressive in that regard. Yeah.
Cool. Perfect. All right. Good stuff. All right. Let's move on to the next one. Arielle, what have you got for us? What's your creator tool?
Have you heard of Duckbill?
No.
Okay. I'm very excited.
Presuming it's not our actual duckbill. Yeah.
This is a tool that I became aware of just a few months ago. It's getduckbill.com.
Mm-hmm.
It is a personal assistant. You pay for it. You pay money for it. You pay, I think it's $100 per month, but you can ask it to do anything. And I would file this under not specifically a creator tool, but it helps creators stay productive tool. So it helps me stay productive. For example, I need a new doctor, but I don't want to do the research myself. I say, hello, Duckbill, could you please find me a doctor within a 5-minute subway ride of my house that is, within my preferences. So I want a woman. I want somebody who cares about, X, Y, and Z, who specializes in X, Y, and Z. Would you make a list for me? Great. I can also say, I'm going on a trip to Munich for Radio Days Europe, and I need a hotel. And I don't know what the cool neighborhoods are in Munich. Could you research for me what the cool neighborhoods are in Munich and find me a hotel within this price range that has a flexible cancellation policy? And then it makes me a list. Also, I'm traveling. And I need a new backpack. Can you make me a list of backpacks that are functional and versatile and that are maybe on the secondhand market? And it makes you a list. It's really great. You can ask it to do, I think we're in the early stages, so I can ask it to do as many tasks as I want per month. So I am bombarding it with tasks. Who knows if they will change the pricing model, but it has been really, really helpful.
That is really cool. How much does it cost?
$100.
Is this a real person on the other
Per
end?
month?
It's not
or is
cheap.
this AI?
It's not cheap, but what it is if you know how to work it, it makes it really worth it. I was previously considering hiring a personal assistant, so this is much cheaper than that.
Yeah. What was that, Jacob? You asking if it was a real person?
Yeah, is it a real person on the other end, or is this AI?
Sounds like
it is. Oh, that's quite cool.
Combo, real people and AI. I think it's mostly real people who are fielding the requests and then deciding if they can offload some of those things to AI. So, for example, if I ask them to, they might have systems in place that when I ask them for a doctor, they go to ZocDoc and maybe knows how to pull a script from doctor search engines. But I always get a response from people. And the way that I know that is the case is because there are some weird typos in there. Typos and grammatical errors that I don't think a robot would make in the responses.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah. And what are some of the other uses? Is it just like lots of these things that you mentioned? It seems like kind of like research, pulling together lists of things.
Yeah, I've been using it for a lot of lists, but let me go into my dashboard and give you some examples.
Oh, yeah, real life. I love how they've got a super cute dog on the front page here. That's how they're selling the app.
GetDuckbill.com, yeah. So what I like about it is similar to what I just looked at the Gemini homepage, and it gives you suggestions, which I thought was really helpful. So they do that too. So they can say, help maintain marble floors. So that's one of the suggestions. And then I click on that and it says, we have marble bathroom floors and I'm constantly cleaning them and worrying about spilling on them / staining them. Can you help me figure out the best options to get them really clean and the best way to maintain them? So that's not my thing. That's a community suggestion. And then if I were to press next, it would say maybe that would be a ChatGPT generated list of how to maintain my marble floors, but most likely not, because as we know, ChatGPT and Gemini and all of these AI related tools are actually giving us generic advice and maybe hallucinating to a certain extent. So my guess is that they are doing some research. This is a request that I put in a few weeks ago. My friends asked me to I was about to say moderate their wedding. My friends asked me to officiate their wedding in Italy in September. And I have no idea what the rules are for that. So I was like, I asked Duckbill, I said, can you find out what the legalities are of me officiating a wedding in Italy? That's something that I just don't want to deal with looking up. And I asked some friends in real life, and a lot of people had differing opinions. A lot of people were like, okay, they'll probably do a courthouse wedding beforehand. Other people said they might not do a courthouse wedding beforehand. And if that's the case, then you will need to become like a universal life minister or whatever. So I was like, I'm just gonna ask Duckbill.
Nice. That's cool. I like this a lot. I'm gonna have to try this out.
It's really interesting. And I'll say this, they are female founded and they're based in Boston, so near me. I'm in New York. And I think it's still relatively new. So I did a call with one of the people on the founding team just to like talk about my use cases. And it really feels like they're still in the beginning stages, that you might be able to have an impact on how things go. So as somebody who works in software, I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, it's always a nice point to jump in when you think it's actually influenceable. Yeah, it's really good. And it's you're absolutely right. Like there's going to be a lot of people using AI for this kind of thing, but actually pay a little bit more and just be certain that it's actually got a bit of fact checking, a bit of trustworthiness behind it. It's actually worth a lot.
Yeah, I mean another one that I did, I'll just try to give a unique example, is I needed. No, that's not a good one. Okay, so here's one.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to get a new dresser and a new couch. And I got a new dresser and a new couch, but they both arrived before I could sell my old dresser and old couch. So in my tiny New York City apartment, I had 2 dressers and 2 couches. And I needed to sell 1 dresser and 1 couch. And I tried to put it on Facebook Marketplace, tried to put it on Craigslist, whatever. But it was too much work and I had to deal with other things. I do a lot, as you said, in the podcast space, and I just did not have time to be dealing with selling my dresser and couch. So I said, help me sell my dresser and couch. And they said, okay, here are the things that you need to do. We're going to make you an account on Craigslist. Here's the password if you ever want to get into it. Can you just send us a picture and let us know a little bit about the couch, what kind of condition it's in? But also we'll be able to tell some of that from the picture. So they did it for me.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah, that's amazing. Cool. I mean, that's a really good illustration of actually, the tools that help us as creators or just in life actually help with everything. Like your hobby, a lot of your stuff's done in hobby time. Therefore, if you end up like shifting a couch in your hobby time, maybe you don't get to put your newsletter out
That's
one
right.
week or something like
That's
that. So yeah, anything that helps us make more time in our lives, more space, helps us with this creating that we want to do. All right. So mine kind of relates to that in a small way. It's a research tool, but it is probably not related, to be fair. It's a research tool, but it's AI based. But it's around being able to find things to actually create content around. And it's a site which collates research and basically offers it up with summaries in that research around, the numbers, around the outcomes, around the really specifics around it. And it's called consensus.app. And I've just found it's a goldmine for content. I've got totally addicted to getting in there, just asking all of the questions that I wanted to ask that generally you get really biased answers to. And that's the thing I'm finding it great for, actually, because you put in something like, so like a health and fitness question or something. I've used it for a few things like this, like is magnesium actually good for helping your sleep, for example? Loads of the health and fitness podcasts out there bang on about certain protocols, certain supplements, certain approaches, and say, oh yeah, this is definitely the right way to go. And then you look into it, and actually there was one research study done once 5 years ago that involved 3 people that showed a little bit of an improvement or something like that. And so it's actual nonsense. So as I've got a bit of a science background, so I kind of start digging into this stuff anyway, but this actually helps anyone do that. Like you can just get the AI to actually find an answer to your question. It looks up every single paper that's ever been published on that subject and just summarizes the results in a totally unbiased way. So it's been really cool. So I've been finding like all sorts of different content ideas in there. And I think just about anyone who's creating content could probably find some nice kind of juicy stats in there, or something controversial, or something that fact checks another person in your space. I don't know about you guys. I've seen a lot of this going out these days, like people actually calling out the kind of bigger names on things that they've got wrong. Have you spotted any of them?
Hell yeah. Oh my God. Threads is a gold mine of horrible podcast related advice. Oh my God.
Okay. Any good examples? Any terrible ones?
There's a lot of people out there who are, talking about how reviews on Apple Podcasts will boost you up in the search algorithm, which, according to Apple years ago, is not a thing.
Not true. Yeah.
And it's not a bad thing to get reviews, but just I implore the folks out there to stop saying that it's a correlation. Just because you get tons of reviews does not mean that you are going to be, shooting up in the charts. It's good for social proof. It's good so that people know that somebody else was there and that they're listening. That might cause people to listen, but it's not doing anything to your chart positioning.
Yeah.
And I'm literally typing into consensus.app, do reviews on Apple Podcasts, do anything. And I'm going to see what it says.
Yeah. Cool. Well, report back. What about you, Jacob? You spotted any of these?
Yeah. But that's not anything new, I don't think. I think maybe it's not really. It's easier for people to kind of, I don't know, come up with well articulated falsehoods now, maybe. But people have always been talking shit about everything, like since the beginning of time.
True. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know.
I think the trend I'm kind of noticing is that people are getting a lot of growth, a lot of hype by calling out these. I think the one I've spotted in particular, that I can't even remember the name of the creator, maybe I should mention him in the next show, but he's been calling out a lot of the guests on Huberman Lab, particularly. Huberman brings on all these guests.
Oh, interesting.
They talk about their, scientific research or their opinion. In fact, most of them are not even scientists. Most of them are just kind of faux experts. They talk about something. Yeah, exactly. Nearly all white dudes. And he's been basically calling out a load of the stuff that they talk about on this show as being absolute nonsense and showing the research behind it, the papers.
Wow.
And to be fair, I've not dug into what this other guy has actually proffered as evidence to his call out. So he could be talking just as much shit as the guest on Huberman. But I've just noticed that as a wee trend, not just there, but elsewhere. It seems to be a new growth tactic. Try and piggyback on a bigger, go for it.
The other thing I've noticed is like a weird amount of positivity. And that's going to sound really weird, but like kind of like almost to the level of toxic positivity. Now, like it's what I imagine it might have felt like 1999 when we're all in the .com bubble, where everything is awesome, everything's perfect, everything is very, very exciting, and everyone's just far too positive about it, and everyone's sort of feeding into one another, making them feel like, I don't know, there is no limit until there is a limit and the bubble bursts. I don't know. That's the one thing that I've noticed recently. I've just thought that's just a little bit weird. Things are just getting like a little bit sort of like post-reality. Just going to keep an eye on that and see what happens.
That's it. Colin, I heard it here first. Jacob's calling the drop off of something or other. I'm not sure what exactly. Drop off of positivity. It's all going to die off. All right. Any other tools at all come to mind before we move on to the next?
Have you ever shouted out? There's a podcast called The Productivity Show.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know this?
No, not come across it. No.
It's a great show. Comes out every Monday. And it's all about creator tools. And they do a section at the beginning of their podcast that shouts out creator tools. So cool. I feel like I should shout them out, because then if you go to their podcast, you can
get even more.
So many tools. And they're all really useful. And I've definitely, first of all, I have Googled already both of the things that you two have mentioned. And I do the same when I listen to that show. Yeah. It's just a great way to be exposed to tools. So
excellent.
A tool for a tool.
Nice. I'll have to get in touch with that. I'll have to listen. Yeah, we'll see if we'll stop it. We're stepping on their toes by the sounds of it. But
no. They do a lot beyond just tools.
Yeah,
that's just how they kick off the show.
Yeah, cool. Okay, perfect. All right, next section we always go to is Creator of the Week. And of course, since we've got you on, Arielle, you're our Creator of the Week this time around. We'll come to yours as well. So is it all right if we ask a few questions about your process?
Oh, yes,
your
absolutely.
Systems? Yeah. Jacob, do you want to kick off? You sort of suggested doing this, so go for it.
Simple question. How did you get started creating? When did you start creating? What was like your first sort of job or hobby where you maybe thought of yourself as a creator?
I did not think of myself as a creator at the time when I started my newsletter, but now I know a lot of newsletter writers consider themselves creators. So I started Earbuds Podcast Collective in 2017, and I started it just on Gmail, and it was ugly and it was inefficient, and I think that it was not what it could have been. I know that. And I did not think of myself as a creator at the time. I just thought of myself maybe as a community builder, maybe as an ideas person, but it took me a while to actually say I am a creator. And then even in 2019, I started the podcast that goes along with Earbuds Podcast Collective, which is called Feedback with Earbuds. Even then, I still wouldn't necessarily consider myself a creator because it was just sort of, I don't know, the term maybe seems self-indulgent to me. But then I started a podcast in 2020 with my friend, like right when the pandemic started. We were like, we're going to make a podcast. And that's when I was like, I guess we're creators now. But I don't know. I still, even to this day, I chafe at the name. I chafe at being called a creator. And it could be because I work full time for software companies. I've been working at Squadcast for 3 years, and then recently Descript acquired Squadcast. So I think my identity is firmly rooted in the fact that I'm a full-time job girly, but and I love software, and I love software that empowers other creators. So maybe that's why I chafe at it, is because like I ultimately see myself as somebody who empowers other creators to create. But yes, I do put out a lot of content. I put out a daily podcast. I put out a weekly podcast. I put out a newsletter every week. I put out another newsletter every 2 weeks or so. So that's a lot of creating. I just still don't consider myself a creator for some reason. But it's all semantics. It's all words.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it's funny how we react to words, isn't it? There's like in our world, it's entrepreneur. That word, I hate that word because like so many people kind of use it in bad ways, and it's just.
I heard somebody called me a portfolio entrepreneur, which I liked because I forget who, and I wish I could credit them, but they were like, you do a lot of things that all sort of contribute to this idea that you are a person in the podcast space, and that is building your portfolio. And I was like, hell yeah, I'm a portfolio entrepreneur. So I'll go with that.
Cool. Yeah. What are your systems? You said you put out so much stuff. How do you manage it all? Like actually, I'd love to hear a bit more about the process, like the actual system you have behind getting
there
that
is no
stuff out
system
every single week.
Thank you so much for thinking there's a system. No, I'm extremely inefficient. I think that I've been saying this on podcasts for years. I need help. I need somebody to watch me for a day or for a week and be like, here's where you are losing time. Here is how you could be better at doing what you do. I use Duckbill to help organize like the things in my life that need organizing, and then from there that allows me to do the day-to-day. So for organization purposes, I do a lot of I use the reminders app on my phone, so I use that for everything, every little thing. I use Siri, and I tell Siri to remind me to do something at a specific time. I use a lot of mark as unread, whether it's for Slack or for Gmail, or for anything that you can mark as unread. That's how I know that it is still left to do.
Isn't it really frustrating that like text messages are the only thing that don't let you do that?
You can do that now on iMessage. Yeah. I know.
Okay,
huge. All you have to do is swipe it. Thank God, because I was losing friends.
Yeah,
that was bad. So a lot of marking is unread. This seems like such a simple system, but that's how I know that something has not been done. I also use the tasks manager on Gmail in order to write things for myself, and I give as much detail and dates as possible. For work, we use Notion. So Notion has been really helpful. I'm learning about some of the AI integrations there. We also use Linear. So also learning about that as a project management software. I'm relatively familiar with Airtable, but I don't use it for any of my personal projects. And then other than that, I do not feel like I am somebody that you should be asking for advice on this. Not that you're asking for advice, but truly, I need help.
Where do you get the energy though to keep because the amount of stuff that you're putting out is insane, and to have no like you're not waking up at 5 a.m. and doing a cold plunge by the sounds of it. Like how do you keep
No,
going?
I wish
That's
though.
so much.
I would do that. I love it. I think the podcast world, the audio world, audio creators, video creators are there's so much out there. And the only piece that I think about strategy wise is at least once a week, I try to share a resource that I think is useful for folks who are creating, whether it's audio or video or both. Other than that, everything that I post on social media is fly by the seat of my pants. It's, hope for the best. This is helpful for me, so hopefully it'll be helpful for you. I guess the only other thing I'd add to that is I see myself as an anti-gatekeeper, I guess a gate opener. I just think like if I know something, you should probably know it too. So I try to share that. So those two principles generally inform how I post and share, and then how I write in my newsletters, if my newsletters are going to have a little bit more to them than just podcast recommendations. So that's how I see myself.
Yeah, I love that. That's really cool. It's kind of, I think that always comes through in your work.
Oh, good.
Everything you put out, like your newsletter, your social media, everything at all. Because I think it's why I resonated with it when I first came across your stuff. Because I feel, we've always just like written everything and recorded everything and putting it out into the world, and you hope something comes back. And luckily, things have over the years, and it's just a nice way to exist, I think.
Yeah.
On that note, though, like the thing that creators often struggle with, makers, content marketers, whatever you want to call it, is actually being able to pay the bills from that stuff. Like, do you monetize your other content? Do you earn from it at all? Your earbuds and the like? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I do. Earbuds, I started running ads on in 2018, I want to say. And, at the start, it wasn't necessarily a fully systematized endeavor. I didn't have like a page where you could go to check out my ad options. It was really people reaching out and saying, can I advertise in this newsletter? And I was like, yeah, sure. Here's how much it should cost. I had no idea. So over time, I figured that out. I use a system now called Passion Fruit, F-R-O-O-T. And it allows me to have a page where you can check out all my advertising options, what you'll get from that. You can even send in the assets there, so I don't have to do too much back and forth with you, because I was doing that for a really long time. People would go to earbudspodcastcollective.org, scroll down, they would see advertising options, they would see what an ad in this section of the newsletter entailed, and then they could click on buy this ad, and that would take them to an email, and then they would have to say, I would like to buy this ad, and then I would say, great, when would you like it to run? So that was a lot of manual back and forth. Passion Fruit allows you to do all of that within their system. So I started using that around a year ago, and that's been really, really helpful. So that now the newsletter is monetized to the point that I am not losing money on MailChimp, and sometimes I'm even in the positive month over month, depending on, I don't do any outbound marketing in order to sell ads. Everything that I have in the newsletter has come to me. I don't have time to do outbound marketing. I have a full-time job, so thankfully I have that flexibility. I have that, I'm able to make that work. Trailer Park, the podcast Trailer Podcast, is one of my weekly podcasts. It is a podcast about podcast trailers. That one is monetized in the sense that we have advertisers who, want shout outs on our show. So right now we're sponsored by OSHA, which is a podcast hosting platform. And we are sponsored by FanList, which allows us to have a fan page for our podcast. So people can call in, people can leave us tips, people can just interact with us on fanlist.com/trailerpark. And then I have another podcast, a daily podcast called Daily Tips That May or May Not Help You with Arielle and Ned. And that one is monetized through our hosting provider's dynamic insertion ad platform.
Yeah, perfect.
I love the name of that one.
That's brilliant. There's so many things in there. Passion fruit. This might be the answer
right?
to a few questions that I've had in the last little while, actually. Yeah, totally. Thanks for bringing this up. We run a few newsletters ourselves. We've got Podcast Pointers. We've got Fiction Podcast Weekly. We've got Podcast Perspectives, and they're all kind of
I get all of them.
Oh, cool. Good. But they're hard to. It's hard to manage, isn't it?
Yeah,
The
it's too
sponsorship side of
much.
things. It's so it's so many logistics go into it, from the dates that you're running them to the prices, all that kind of stuff. So this looks really cool. All right. Okay. Shall we move on to, well, Jacob, do you have any final questions for Arielle before we get on and find out Arielle's creator of the week?
One last one. If you had unlimited time and money, what would be one project that is sat on your shelf that you would love to do?
I have an answer for this right off the bat. In July of 2021, I had a tweet go viral that said, a podcast where parents explain what their adult children do for a living. And it went mega viral. Like 120 something thousand people liked it. And it really resonated with people. To this day, it still gets screenshot and posted on Instagram on all those big meme accounts. And people comment, and everybody has a story for it. Everybody has a thought when it comes to what their parents think they do for a living. So I would make that podcast. I would do it right. I would, source stories from all around the world. I would really get really great music. I would get funders. I would make it happen if I had all the time in the world, all the money in the world.
It would be a great show. I mean, you could see from the reaction how good it would be.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was amazing. Cool. Nice. All right. So who do you think of when you think of good creators in Arielle? Who's on your mind just now as a creator of the week?
So I have a creator of the week who was not on my radar a few months ago and probably won't be on my radar in a few months in the audio space because they're doing a really great job right now at their launch, at their podcast launch. The show is called The Nightingale of Iran. It's a show hosted by two sisters, Danielle and Galit Dardashti, and they discovered in their parents' basement a bunch of old tapes of their father and their grandfather, who were famous singers in Iran. And they're Jewish from Iran, and a few years after the height of their fame, the height of their family's fame, they left the country. And now, of course, we don't think of Iran necessarily as super hospitable to Jews. So the story is like, why at the height of Judaism in Iran, so Jews were like fully accepted at this time, this was like the 70s, why did they leave? They were famous. Why did they leave? So they put together this 6-episode story. They put together this 6-episode podcast series on the Nightingale of Iran, the Nightingale being the singer, their grandfather, and their family history and family secrets. And it's a beautiful show. And they are crushing it when it comes to like getting all the press and then promoting themselves when they get all the press and then working the angles to try to get on panels and try to get on. They're just doing a really great job. So if you follow them on social media, you'll see what I'm talking about. And they also did everything right when it comes to the cover art is gorgeous. The audio quality is beautiful. They are crediting all of the people that make their show. So I'm just a really big fan of how they're rolling it out.
This looks really interesting. Yeah. Do they have a background in this? I mean, how have they pulled this off? Yes. So they do. Okay.
Galit, one of the sisters, is a singer herself. So she follows in her father and grandfather's footsteps. And she sings music that is inspired by their family history, but also contemporary. So she's has made a name for herself as a singer, as a Jewish singer. And then her sister, Danielle, is a documentary maker for years.
That helps.
So they know how to make stories.
Yeah. So you were saying they were getting loads of press, just taking real advantage of that kind of stuff to get. Do you think have you seen anything they've done really well in terms of actually causing that? Like, how have they managed to get all that press in the first place? I'm just kind of curious what has made this launch so successful.
Yeah. Danielle is a mover, a shaker, a pusher. She finagled her way to get distributed by PRX. So PRX is helping with that, the public radio exchange. And then what she's doing really well, and I'm friendly with her, so I made sure to push this on her. Every time she gets any little bit of press, so whether it's like, being featured in Find That Pod or being mentioned by a person who loves a podcast and one of those podcasts happens to be you screenshot that and you post it and you say, people are not stopping in their talking about this show, right? So like I noticed recently that they were trending on Apple Podcasts music history. Sorry. Yes. I noticed recently that they were trending on Apple Podcast Music History, but also that they were trending on Spotify's music charts. And I was like, you would have to click a million times to find this, but you should still celebrate this as if you are being featured. Like, celebrate this and let people think that this is a huge deal, because it is. That means that out of all the podcasts in the world, yours is being listened to enough to be charting on Spotify, to be charting on Apple. That's huge. So let people know that that's huge.
That's amazing. That's really cool. Thanks. I'm going to listen to that as well. Okay, dokes. All right. Well, that'll do us for this week. Unless there any other questions for that, Jacob, before we finish up?
No, I love the framing that you put on the press stuff. Yeah. It's something that I think people don't do enough. Celebrate the small wins, but actually educate people on how. Yeah, exactly. If you kind of sit back and think this is cool, but it's not worth writing about, then no one else is going to think it's cool. No one else is going to get the hype. You have to be your own main hype person, for sure. I love it. Good energy.
Don't let it leave people's minds,
Yeah. Sweet.
Definitely. Good words. All right, Arielle, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for coming on. Some great tools, resources, all sorts of stuff in there. Where would you say the best place is? Would you get them to go and sign up for earbuds?
Yes, I would love for them to sign up for earbuds, but that's probably not the best direct line to me. I think the best direct line to me, let's do Threads, because Twitter is fine at this point. I'm still posting on Twitter, I am, but trying to build up Threads as well. I'm Arielle this and that on Threads, and Ari this and that on Twitter. I should probably consolidate that, but that's where we're at.
You're the person that knows social media best of anyone I know. So is this you advocating a move?
I like Threads.
The big move.
Yeah, I like Threads. I think right now it is, like I said, filled with garbage advice for creators. I toyed around with making a fake. Do you know what a Finsta is?
A Finsta? No.
Yeah, Finsta. It stands for fake Instagram. So this would be more of a Freds, a fake Threads. And it would be me just quote tweeting shitty creator advice and being like, here's why this is wrong. So I thought about doing that. So if there is an account that pops up and that is the premise of it, that would be me.
Nice.
Or somebody's going to do it now and then blame it on you when the shit hits fan. Nice. Okay, cool. I need to go and check it out again. I signed up in the first week or so.
Oh, good. At least you have your account selected. That's good.
Yeah. Are you using it at all, Jacob? You even looked at it?
Same thing. Got it the first week. It was so dead that I just thought, I will either not come back or come back at another time. Yeah. But you think it's picking up now?
Yeah. The podcast and creator world on Threads is definitely picking up.
Cool.
Great. Okay, we'll go and check it out. All right. Thanks again, Arielle. Thanks, Jacob. Thanks to you, listener, for listening. This is the Creator Toolbox, and we'll see you next time.